A cow so muscled it can't give birth, a chicken bred to balloon in weeks, a dog whose face shape suffocates it. None of these animals would exist if humans hadn't pushed nature past its limits. Each one is proof that we broke the rules of evolution for profit, power, or novelty. But what happens when human ambition outpaces biology, and can these trade-offs ever be justified? Thousands of years ago, people began shaping the animals around them, not by accident, but with purpose. Early herders in ancient Mesopotamia chose sheep that grew thicker wool, while cattle keepers selected for size and strength. Over generations, these choices rewrote the fate of entire species. A historian of breeding describes how, from the beginning, the goal was never just survival, it was utility. The most docile wolf pups became the first dogs. The most productive cows supplied milk and meat for growing settlements. Each decision favored traits that made life easier for humans, but there was always a hidden cost. A geneticist explains the mechanism behind these changes. Selective breeding is not random. It is a deliberate narrowing of possibilities. When people pick one trait, like muscle, size, or docility, and keep breeding for it, the animal's entire biology tilts in that direction. Genes that once balanced health, fertility, and survival get left behind. Over time, these animals lose the resilience their wild ancestors relied on. The process creates what some scientists call a biological debt, a buildup of hidden weaknesses paid for by the next generation. Ancient records show that even the earliest breeders noticed trade-offs. Sheep bred for heavy wool sometimes struggled in hot climates. Draft animals bred for power lost the agility needed to evade predators. The historian notes that these compromises were accepted, even normalized, because the immediate benefits, more food, more labor, more control, seem to outweigh the risks. But as the geneticist points out, nature's balance does not come with guarantees. When one trait is pushed too far, the animal's body cannot always keep up. Breeds created for human needs often end up trapped by those very choices. The question of ethics lingers in the background. How far can we push before the cost is too high? The trade-offs made centuries ago set the stage for the extreme examples seen today, where the line between improvement and harm grows ever thinner. In the world of modern animal breeding, 3 species stand as living proof of what happens when human priorities override biological balance. Belgian blue cattle, for example, are the result of decades of selecting for a single gene mutation. The myostatin gene, which normally limits muscle growth, has been disrupted in this breed. The result is an animal with 20 to 40% more muscle mass than its ancestors. But these gains come at a steep cost. Nearly every Belgian blue calf is too large to be born naturally. In many herds, over 90% of births require surgical intervention. A large animal veterinarian describes the reality. C-sections are routine. The calf simply cannot fit through the mother's pelvis. Without surgery, both lives are at risk. Calf survival rates hover around 70 to 80%, and the cows themselves face repeated surgical trauma throughout their breeding years. In poultry barns, the story takes a different shape, but it follows the same logic. Broiler chickens have been bred to reach market weight in just 6 weeks, a growth rate 400% faster than chickens from the 1950s. The industry touts efficiency and low costs, but the birds pay the price. Their bones cannot keep up with the muscle mass, leading to collapsed legs and chronic pain. Heart failure and sudden death are common, with 3 to 4% dying before slaughter. More than 30% show skeletal problems by the end of their brief lives. These chickens are so heavy and unbalanced that many cannot even stand or walk to food. In the world of companion animals, the brachycephalic breeds, bulldogs, pugs, and French bulldogs offer a different warning. Selected for short, flat faces, these dogs have become popular for their appearance, but the consequences are severe. Airway obstruction is routine. Many struggle to breathe, even at rest. 84% of bulldog births require C-sections because the puppies' heads are too large for the birth canal. Chronic respiratory distress, overheating, and a shortened lifespan, often just 8 years, are the price of breeding for novelty over health. These examples reveal a pattern. When selective breeding pushes animals toward extremes, the immediate benefits for humans are matched by mounting biological costs. The evidence is written in surgical records, mortality statistics, and the daily suffering of animals shaped by human hands. Pressure mounted as the evidence of suffering grew impossible to ignore. Animal welfare advocates began to demand answers, asking why breed standards and industry practices allowed such extreme outcomes. The conversation turned from silent acceptance to public debate. In the United Kingdom, the Kennel Club faced scrutiny after reports revealed bulldogs and pugs were struggling to breathe and to give birth naturally. The club responded by reviewing breed standards and by requiring health screenings for show entries, but critics argued these changes came too late for many animals already affected. Elsewhere, policymakers looked for ways to hold breeders accountable for the health of their animals. Sweden introduced a model where breeders are financially responsible if a puppy develops serious health problems within its first 3 years. This liability framework forced a rethink. Breeding choices now carried legal and economic consequences, not just reputational ones. In the poultry industry, calls for reform led to proposals for mandatory welfare audits and restrictions on genetic lines linked to high mortality or chronic pain. Some countries debated outright bans on certain breeding practices, citing evidence from veterinary associations and animal behaviorists. Welfare advocates argued that these measures were only a start. They pointed to the gap between regulation and real-world outcomes, noting that enforcement often lagged behind scientific understanding. Breed standards written by committees could take years to reflect new health data. In the meantime, animals continued to pay the price for decisions made in pursuit of productivity or novelty. The ethical dilemma sharpened. When profit and tradition clash with animal welfare, who is responsible for the harm? As scrutiny intensified, the need for stronger, more responsive policies became clear. The question was no longer whether the system was broken, but how much longer it could be allowed to fail the creatures it claimed to protect. Mules, ligers, and zorses are not accidents of nature. Each one is a direct result of human intervention, creatures that would almost never exist without deliberate crossing. A mule, produced by breeding a male donkey with a female horse, stands as a symbol of utility. Its calm temperament and remarkable endurance made it invaluable for centuries of farm and military labor. But the mule's body carries a genetic contradiction. With 63 chromosomes caught between the horse's 64 and the donkey's 62, the mule cannot produce balanced gametes. Fertility is almost non-existent. Out of thousands of documented cases, only a handful of female mules have ever conceived, and male mules are universally sterile. Geneticists explain that the odd chromosome count makes normal reproduction impossible. The mule is a one-generation solution, strong, but a biological dead end. Ligers, the offspring of a male lion and a female tiger, represent a different kind of experiment. They were first bred in 19th-century zoos, not for work, but for spectacle. Ligers grow far larger than either parent, sometimes reaching over 900 pounds. This size is not an advantage in the wild. It is the result of disrupted genomic imprinting. In lions, growth-suppressing genes are carried by the mother. When a tiger fills that role, those suppressors are missing, and the offspring's growth goes unchecked. Ethologists warn that this unnatural size puts enormous strain on the animal's heart and joints, leading to chronic health problems and shortened lifespans. Ligers are also almost always sterile, unable to continue their line. Zorses, born from zebra and horse crosses, are bred for novelty or curiosity. The zebra parent's instincts often dominate, making the zorse far more aggressive and unpredictable than a horse. Ethologists describe zorses as difficult to train and prone to sudden panic, behavior that reflects a deep conflict between inherited instincts. Integration with horse herds is fraught, and zorses rarely form stable bonds. The hybrid's appeal fades quickly when its behavior proves dangerous or unmanageable. Each of these hybrids reveals the limits of crossing species lines. The results are often striking, but the biological costs, infertility, health crises, and behavioral confusion are impossible to ignore. An ethologist warns that these animals exist at the edge of what nature can tolerate, and often beyond what it can sustain. Today, designer breeds and engineered hybrids still fill labs, farms, and pet stores, proof that our choices keep rewriting nature's rules. As gene editing accelerates, the line between progress and harm blurs further. The question now isn't if we can change life, but if we should. Thank you for watching.